In this comparative study, I will be exploring the crime film genre by comparing Jean-Luc Godard's 1960 film Breathless with Quentin Tarantino's 1994 film Pulp Fiction. These films are highly appropriate for comparison because they come from different cultural contexts, Breathless surrounding the economic and social hardships in post-war France during the French New Wave, and Pulp Fiction dealing with social issues in the United States during the 1990s. But they come from the similar crime genre, which is a subgenre of drama. It should also be added that Tarantino's Pulp Fiction was inspired by Godard's Breathless. Both of these films use the techniques and conventions of the crime film genre to explore different forms of masculinity. Masculinity can be defined as the roles and behaviors seem suitable for men in a given society. In Breathless, masculinity is romanticized and portrayed with reckless abandon, while Pulp Fiction illustrates a more nuanced and varied picture of what it means to be a man in the criminal world. This genre follows a narrative that voices the conflict of personal initiative that is often seen following the criminals themselves rather than the actual law enforcement. In Breathless, we follow a runaway thug who panics after impulsively shooting a policeman. In Pulp Fiction, we follow 4 intertwined storylines from different levels of the mob. This genre is also often widely associated with film techniques such as high and low angle shots to distribute power among the characters, handheld shots, low-key lighting, and non-diegetic sound to create tension or suspense. Other aspects include the consumption of alcohol or other drugs, the use of weapons such as guns, and a murder of an innocent victim, while also including the themes of betrayal or ruthless ambition. I will be comparing my 2 chosen films in relation to these techniques, or their lack thereof, and the portrayal of masculinity in correspondence to the film's socioeconomic, historical, and political contexts. According to Radhika Chopra, masculine identity is represented through shared experiences of power and powerlessness, of the uncertainty of everyday existence in the face of police brutality and unemployment. The development of the masculine identity and ego is seen to be constructed in a similar way in both films, both having the men put on a facade to appear stronger or more powerful, but have different motivations for this based on how their masculinity responds to demanding and traumatic situations. In Breathless, Michel adopts his masculine personality after Humphrey Bogart, a famous film noir actor in America during the 1930s. The opening of the film has Michel dressed as an imitation of an American gangster, wiping his lips to mimic Bogart. It's as though he's trying to get into character, and Bogart's gesture acts as a kind of good luck charm. Later, Michel comes face to face with his idol staring at a poster of Bogart. This medium shot cuts off Bogart's head, and Michel's reflection can be seen in the window being distorted, almost being highlighted by the shadows. The late film critic Dennis Turner believes this is a portrayal of Jacques Lacan's theory of the mirror stage, which suggests the moment of life when an infant begins to recognize his or her image in the mirror. The similar camera shots of Michel and Bogart having a stare-off suggests an alienation of Michel's own identity to seek the projected ideal of the American crime star. His hyper-masculine tendencies, which is highlighted in the awkward close-up shots, is the exact opposite of the usual smooth and respectable man seen within the crime genre. This foreshadows his unfortunate fate and shows his lack of understanding of what it means to be a man. Michel's obsession with this American aspect of the crime genre correlates to the weakening autonomy of the French cinema due to the pressures of American studios and how the members of the French New Wave began to directly imitate the Americans. Unlike Michel, the men in Pulp Fiction are able to put on a suave persona of masculinity. At the beginning of the film, the 2 hitmen, Vincent and Jules, are dressed in professional suits and followed by steady pan shots to symbolize their power. Before they enter the room, we hear Jules say,
"Come on, let's get into character."
This suggests that whatever is about to happen in that room isn't a reflection of who they are. We then see their faces in low-key lighting and met with an eye-level shot of the hitmen turned away from the audience. This shot can illustrate that they are already in character, so if the audience had, for example, a close-up shot of the hitmen, like in Breathless, they might be able to see through their facade. This can be observed as a perpetuation of the notion that men are able to remain calm in situations that may otherwise seem stressful or cause anxiety. The multiple shots of characters being faceless to the audience, not wanting them to see their vulnerable side when they need to feel superior, can comment on the socioeconomic issues of the time period. Economic equality began to increase, but so did global terrorism, public shootings, and global warming evidence. The government took its praise and turned a blind eye to the aspects it was failing to control. Unlike Unlike Michelle, the men in Pulp Fiction understand their own identities associated with masculinity and use it to act maturely in society. This allows the men in Pulp Fiction to get away with their crimes. Tarantino is also seen glamorizing the use of weapons because at any point during the film, when a character is armed with a weapon, they are portrayed as more powerful and therefore more masculine. So what happens when the men are in the subordinate position? The concept of toxic masculinity and its effects can be seen in both of these films through the use of editing, mise-en-scène, and camera angles. Godard portrays his theme of toxic masculinity as the outcome of a man's purposeful actions when feeling inferior. After killing the policeman, Michel runs to Patricia, whom he constantly belittles and uses for his own benefit. The fast-paced editing, which was revolutionary for the time period, is seen throughout the crime film genre to create anxiety or nervousness. In this film, it is only when Michel states misogynistic comments outside the camera angle towards Patricia does the editing start to slow down. This displays him regaining control of his masculinity. Tarantino displays his theme of toxic masculinity as accidental when a man feels out of control. For example, when Butch finds out his girlfriend forgot his father's watch, he struggles to hold back his anger and be respectful to her. This is exemplified in the cinematography when his face is constantly seen sharing the light in the shadows. This can also be seen with Vincent during Mia's overdose. Before he finds her on the floor, he is seen in a low-angle shot with his suave masculine persona on, which is no doubt helped with his drug addiction, to display his control to the situation with his boss's wife. As also seen within Breathless, Vincent is heard out of the camera angle saying, "Come on, girl," instead of by her real name. The lack of respect and being out of the camera angle can represent his lack of control in the situation. His fear of his boss subdues his suave masculine persona and the effect that Mia only matters in so much as it affects his own life.
I will be forced to tell him that you did not help.
The men in Pulp Fiction allowing their vulnerable side to show, unlike Michelle, correlates to the time period when men increasingly bumped up against the limits of traditional masculinity. Oh, man. One last point of comparison is the stripping away of the men's masculinity that can be seen within the cinematography and costuming. In Breathless, this can be seen from the beginning of the film when Michel shoots the policeman. The whole interaction is seen over only 5 different shots, which are extreme close-ups to obscure the action instead of wide shots that would make the action clear. The sequence of extreme close-ups acts as a way to steal or strip Michel's part of the actual crime. The way the camera acts around Michel makes it feel as if the audience is always watching him, which can exemplify him always being vulnerable and making him appear childish instead of masculine the way he desires. After Michel kills the policeman, there is then a long take of a wide shot of Michel running where he is missing his hat from the previous shot. The missing hat that made him appear more like his idol Bogart can physically show his masculinity being stripped away and symbolize he will never have it if he acts immaturely. Godard having Michel wanting to appear like a famous American crime actor and steal an American car that leads to his fate correlates to the film Breathless as a whole trying to find French cinema identity while living in the shadow of Hollywood dominance of the time period. Meanwhile, in Pulp Fiction, this can be seen at the end instead of the beginning. The hitmen, who were seen to be all-powerful, are humbled by someone from a higher level of the mob. Mr. Wolf is called in to help the hitmen clean up their mess and is seen from a low angle from within the car. Mr. Wolf is a dominant image because he is the center of the shot, which allows him to appear more powerful. This allows the audience to know Vincent and Jules are no longer in control. Later, we see a medium shot of the men cleaning the blood from within the car and appear separated because of the angle of the camera. This creates distance for the two characters, which juxtaposes with the beginning of the film when they work together to create a high-power dynamic. Without their connection, their masculine facades begin to falter. The men are then forced to strip their clothes to become clean. This symbolizes them physically stripping away their masculinity by becoming vulnerable for the rest of the world to see. This humiliation increases when the film fades to black and then fades back to the men in normal clothes. This makes them appear unprofessional and powerless. Their masculinity was taken away, placing them in a subservient position. Tarantino may have given these men masculine power only to have it constantly ripped away to comment on the rise and fall of public trust in the government seen throughout the 1990s. The rise and fall of power within the men in Pulp Fiction contrasts with Michel's masculinity, which begs the question if he had any to begin with. To conclude, it is clear both films belong to the crime film genre that allude back back to the relevant cultural contexts of their time period. Their difference of portrayal of masculinity through the usage of the gain and loss of power seen from their similar crime film genre conventions exhibits the consequences of the social expectations of what being a man truly means.
Ça, c'est bien les idées des garçons.